Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And as you can see by the title of this video, it's gonna be pretty deep, right? So let's get into it, inshallah. Before we do, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, give me a like, drop a comment, inshallah, and just to help with the algorithm, inshallah. So the beginning of this story, I guess I should go into some context. At the time, which was in 2005, I had this idea in my mind that I wanted to make hijrah to a Muslim country. And so I began to look at countries like, Yemen and Egypt and Morocco and places like Malaysia and stuff like that. So places that I could go and be the majority. So long story short, I decided on Egypt. Now, a little bit of context, rewinding a little bit. At the time, I was with some brothers that had some extremist type of views, ideology, mindset. And so I kind of, as a convert, I kind of fell into this. I think as all of us did. And it was just, it wasn't any like groups or anything. It was just basically, to be honest, it was just anti-American policy. We had some policies, the war in Iraq was going on, the second invasion. There's a lot of things going on in the Muslim world at the time, and we just had some views about that. So the FBI was looking at us. I'm sure that there was other people that were looking at us. Rightly so. I don't know. I guess they would have looked at us as extremists or people that they should keep their eye on. 2001, unfortunately, the 9/11 attacks happened, and the whole atmosphere was just explosive at that time. For lack of a better term, it was just America and the West didn't know how to react. What was happening? Extremism. Groups that were coming out and saying this and that. And we were never calling for violence or anything like that, but we had some extreme views, I would say. So fast forward, I went to Egypt. I wanted to kind of scope it out first to see if this was a place where I could take my wife at the time and my kids. So I landed in Cairo. I flew through customs in about 2 minutes. I mean, he asked me, basically, he looked at my passport, he looked at me, he looked at my name. My name is a, Arab name, Muslim name, because I changed it legally. And he basically looked at me, looked at my passport and said, stamped my passport, welcome to Egypt. I flew through. So in Egypt, I did the tourist thing. I went around. I remember my first morning in Egypt. I woke up in the morning to the sound of the adhan, and I just thought, okay, now I'm home. This is a Muslim country, and so I got up in the morning for Fajr. I went straight to the masjid. It was 2 blocks down the street. It was a massive masjid in an area called Midan Hijaz. So I went to that masjid, prayed, went out. The sun was just rising up, and I just looked around and I said, "Oh my God, I'm in a Muslim country." And I felt so free, so proud to be in a Muslim country. So I just walked down the street, and the first place that I came upon was a little cafe. There's Egyptian cafes are all over the place. So I sat down, and I ordered some tea and some fool and khubz, some fresh, warm Egyptian bread, and I ate. And I just remember feeling, this is going to be good. This is really, really going to be good. So so going forward, I decided to live in a place called Alexandria. So I got to Alexandria, and Alexandria is beautiful. It's I don't know, like a resort type of town, but it's nice. I actually liked it better than Cairo. So I moved into an area called Al Safra, really close to the beach, to the Mediterranean. A beautiful, beautiful area. So at that time, I really wasn't looking for a job because, alhamdulillah, I had to save some money to just. I didn't want to stay this trip. I was just basically scoping for my family to see if it was okay, if we could do it. So what happened next? I went to well, maybe I should leave the name out of the school name out. So I went to a place where they teach English, but they also teach Italian, French, and Arabic. And so I went in there and I was looking to better my Arabic in a class. And the director came down and he's just kind of like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Well, I just was thinking about enrolling in an Arabic class." And he said, "Well, do you need a job?" And I was like, "Not really, but why?" He's like, "Well, we're looking for an English teacher and we don't have any Americans to teach English, so maybe you could do that." And I said, "You got the wrong guy. I'm not a teacher. I'm a truck driver. I'm a blue collar type of guy. I'm not qualified at all." And so he basically said, in an Egyptian accent, "What is the color of your passport? Is blue, right?" And I said, "Yeah, the color of my passport is blue. It's an American passport." He said, "Okay, khalas, you're qualified." So I was like, "Okay." And he said, "Yeah, come up to my office. Let's talk numbers." And I said, "Okay." And so we agreed on part-time employment, working 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. And so I took the job, and it was a great job. I didn't know that I was really a teacher. I love to be around people and watch them, speaking very, very little English, and see them, learning the English language. And, they were learning that because of me. It was very satisfying to be a teacher. And the students were great. It was just, and I was having a ball inside of Egypt. It was the people of Egypt, and I don't want, because the story is going to turn dark here in a few. I don't want anybody to think that Egyptian people are bad. No way. Egyptian people are the most kind. They will give you the shirt off of their back. They are so generous and polite and welcoming to tourists, and especially Muslim reverts like myself. When I first got to Alexandria, my neighbors were actually fighting over themselves. They would say, no, you don't get Ali for lunch. I invited him for lunch. Maybe you can invite him for dinner, but no, Ali, ta'al, let's go. You're gonna come to my house for lunch. I had the best neighbors, the best of times, the best of people. I made real friendships. They were really good people. So I don't want it to be misconstrued of maybe this could have any reflection about how the Egyptian people as a whole are. No, not at all. They're good people. So flash forward to about 10 months I had been there in Egypt working. So I'm on my computer. It's 10 o'clock at night. And, I think I was on Pal Talk. I think I was on Pal Talk, like making, speaking to people on the mic. And there was, 10 o'clock at night, who was that? Like who even, why did the Boab, the doorman, even let them up? Why are they knocking on my door? Open the door, and there's about five, the black beret guys with the white, you know who I'm talking about, the shurta. About five of them right in front of me, and it was two plainclothes officers. And they didn't even say anything to me. They just burst into my house. And I said, whoa, 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 what is this about? What is this about? What's happening? Whoa, 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 you know? And one of the plainclothes officers came to me and he said, are you Mr. Ali? And he told me my name, and I said, yeah, that's me. What's going on? And they said, we have some questions for you. And I said, okay. So as we're speaking, everybody, all the officers are rifling through my house. They're turning everything upside down and searching everything. And what is this? What is this? What is this? Going through my computer. They confiscated that, by the way. It was a terrible ordeal, but really nothing in comparison to what is to come. So in my mind, I was thinking, okay, these guys are police. They are doing their jobs. They, in hindsight, they see me as an extremist or somebody that doesn't go along with like the narrative, who has anti-American policies. Maybe he has anti-Egyptian policies as well. I don't know, probably. They were just doing their job, I guess, at that point. So, where are you from? What do you do? What is this? They're asking me all kinds of questions, and I complied, of course. So we just got about 20 minutes into it, and I said, and that's basically it. And he said, okay. Well, you are under arrest. And I said, seriously? For what? For what? It doesn't matter what. Come with us, you're arrested. And I didn't expect that. I expected the police to come to my house and ask me what's going on. They have a right to know. That's their country. I get it. But I'm being arrested? For what? Well, I thought I was in a Muslim country. I thought I was amongst my people. I thought, what could I have done to warrant being arrested? Well, in Egypt, it doesn't take a lot to get arrested. So they actually turned me around, and everybody, the followers in the room know that I became Muslim in prison. So I'm like, again, here we go. So he actually turned me around, and I got cuffed. And I had an officer on each side of me, and they led me down the stairs. I lived on the, maybe the fifth floor in Al Safra, a building in Al Safra. And I came down, and my bawab is looking at me like, dude, who are you? What have you done? And I'm just like looking at him like, I have no idea what's going on. So I don't know if they led me out to the street. I don't know if you guys have ever. I liken it to this movie because that's the way it looked and the way it felt. You ever seen that movie Devil's Advocate, where Al Pacino leads out Keanu Reeves into downtown New York to talk to him, but nobody is there. So Egypt, it's just like hustle and bustle. Doesn't matter. 10 a.m., 10 p.m., 2 a.m., doesn't matter. There's cars, there's honking, there's traffic, everything's going on. It's going off at all times. When I got to my front door and I looked to the left and I looked to the right, the police had, with those blue trucks, they had actually closed off both sides of the street, like a block this way and a block that way. They had closed the streets off, and the people were kind of like, trying to look at me, and I'm like, this is for me? Okay, they got the wrong person, or they are just, this is going way too far. So I got in back of the truck, and they took me to the police station in Alexandria. Now, a little context on this is, this was the 20th day of Ramadan. So that night was the first of the last 10 nights of Ramadan. So I'm just thinking, oh, okay. So we go to the police station. They question me some more. They take my fingerprints. They take photos of me. They ask me the same questions all over again, and I'm just like, okay, that's okay. Yeah, I can see why they're doing this to me. Okay, fine. I thought that they would just, question me and I would be upon my way. No. So I'm in there, I'm in the holding cell, and I'm just wondering what's going on with me. And I couldn't sleep. So around 4 o'clock, a guard came in and said, here's your suhoor. And I said, man, these guys actually plan to keep me. So I took the suhoor and I ate, and it seems like right after my meal, they put a blindfold over my face. And that's when it got real for me. I was cuffed from behind my back, and they put a blindfold over me. And I just thought, what's going to happen to me? Because I had always heard the horror stories about people disappearing in Egypt, of not needing a reason to arrest or a charge or anything. I've been in cuffs before. When I became Muslim, when I went to prison, I became Muslim. I'd been in cuffs before. I had been in prison before. But when that blindfold went over my head, that was a whole different vibe right there. And I just thought, oh no, what's going to happen to me? So they put me in a truck where you can only stand up. And we drove 3 hours all the way down to Cairo. I remember just standing up, and it's dark, and you're in this metal box, and you're just driving, 3 hours down the way. At that time, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know anything. My senses were totally deprived, except my ears. I could hear everything. I could hear them talking. I could hear the people outside speaking, but I just couldn't see anything. So we got to Cairo, and I don't know where it is even till today. But for some reason, when we got out of the truck, he took my blindfold off, and there was he had to be in his 50s, late 50s. There's like an old Egyptian guard, and he had the oldest, like an Israeli type of Uzi in his lap. And I just thought, what the hell? I looked at him and he looked at me, and he told the guards, put his blindfold on. What are you doing? Put his blindfold back on. So they put the blindfold back on me. And he led me down to this building that we went to. The first thing that I heard was screaming. Screaming. And I'm blindfolded, I'm an American citizen, but I'm Muslim. And the first thing that I have to be honest, I was intimidated. I was in fear. There's no real legislation, or not legislation, but like a muhami or like a lawyer that can really help you at this point. When the state has you, the state has you, period. You could do nothing. Doesn't matter where you're from or what passport you have. So, and I'll try to give all of the details that I can. This happened in 2005. I didn't think that it was going to be really hard to talk about, but now that I think about it, and now that I'm explaining it, it kind of brings back those memories. So the first thing that happened to me was I was chained to and I have to warn the viewer from this point, it's going to get a little bit descriptive. It's going to get a little bit dark, for lack of a better term. But I thought that I would share my story with you. Inshallah, that you could benefit, because there is a tremendous lesson in this. I promise you. So, torture is many things. It's mental, it's physical, it's humiliation, it's sleep deprivation, it's noise, it's everything. Humiliation, insult, everything. It's everything. Everything can be torture. So the first thing that happened to me was I was made to, first I was stripped naked. When I went to interrogation, I never wore clothes. I was never allowed to wear clothes. The only thing that I was allowed to wear is handcuffs and a blindfold. So that was the first humiliation. I was made to put my clothes off. They took my clothes off, and I was chained to a bar or something on the side of the wall, and I was made to lay on my side. And I laid there for, I'd say, 8 to 10 hours. And I was calling out and I was saying, hello, is anybody there? Assalamu alaikum. And I happened to, along the way, develop like a fever or something. I get really hot, and I was in bad shape. And I called to the guards and I said, لو سمحت أعطيني مي, عشان أنا مريض, أنا حران, I'm hot, بالعربي. And what the guard said to me, he said to me, يلا ميت, يلا مات, die, didn't die. Here I am, a Muslim. Has been Muslim for, at that time it was, 14 years, I believe. I've come to a Muslim country, and to be the majority, to be with my brothers and my sisters. And I have somebody telling me, Yalla, die. If you're sick, then die. They didn't allow me to pray. They wouldn't let me go to the bathroom. And so I was made to sit there from 8 to 10 hours. And without details, they wouldn't let me go to the bathroom. They wouldn't let me pray. They wouldn't give me medicine. They wouldn't give me a cup of water, nothing. So finally they came to me, and I was just exhausted already. Day one in this place. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know if, nobody knew that I was arrested. My family didn't know because they are in America and they are waiting for my call. They don't know anything. So we went down to the holding area. That's where we went first after that whole entry, that room that we went to, whatever it was with the bar. And I went around other people. So when you move in prison in Egypt, you're always blindfolded. You can't see anybody. Wallahi, I couldn't even describe one person that did anything to me in prison. I've never seen their faces, ever. So I went down and they took me to a big room. There was about 25 to 30 Muslims in there. And they pointed to a bed and they said, there, sleep there. And when I went in, a white American, the looks that I got was just like, what the hell is this guy doing here? And so one person came up to me and he says, what are you doing here? And I said, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing here. So he says, are you American? I said, yeah. And they said, the guy said to the other people, well, American. He's an American. And everybody came around me and they're like, what? Zay, how? Inti Amriki? Asli Amriki? Like you're American originally. I said, yeah, born and raised. ممكن انت لبناني ولا سوري? No, I'm not Arab at all. And that just puzzled them. So I kind of, acclimated. I had been in prison before. And so I kind of acclimated and just, people were talking to me, asking me questions. And so the next morning, it started early in the morning. They called my name. And so when they call your name, you go to the door, you turn around. Everybody has their own blindfold. It's kind of weird. But you put on a blindfold and they will not open the door until you are blindfolded and you step backwards so they can cuff you and walk you up to the interrogation room. I didn't know what was happening. I thought they were going to just question me again and question me again and question me again. But this time was a whole lot different. So they led me down the hallway and we entered into a room. Right away, and I still don't know what it is till today because I was blindfolded and I was cuffed behind my back. Of course, they took off all my clothes and I was made to sit in a metal chair, very cold. But they put something very, very close to my face, and I don't know what it is, but it's like, the way I can describe it is, as a kid, when you would get really, really close to the TV and you would feel that static, like electricity on your face when you get close to the TV, it was really close to my face. And I just thought, what is this? And that stayed there. And so they asked me questions. And they asked me questions and they interrogated. And then they took me out of the room into another room. And this is where it all began. Because I kept on giving in the same answers because I was nobody to begin with. I had some anti-American policies that I didn't agree with and I voiced them. But I was no threat to anybody. I wasn't a part of any extremist group. I didn't call to any extremism or any extremism groups. So what they did in that other room is they put me in what's called a stress position. And the people in Guantanamo Bay, they know very well what a stress position is. Basically, I can't demonstrate it here, but it's you're handcuffed behind your back. You're made to squat down with your arms handcuffed, and they put it below your knees. And so you're made to squat there. And then they put another, like a chain, to make sure that you can't stand up. It's called the stress position. Look it up if you don't know on Google. So I was made to squat there. And I just thought, what the hell is going on? Completely, without clothes, handcuffed, blindfolded. I was made to be in that position it felt like an eternity. So they came in, door, boom, slammed open. I think by the footsteps, I think it might have been 3 people. This guy sounded like an Arab, but he had like an American accent. I can still tell that he was an American. And so he said whatever he said, and he insulted me. They talked about my mother. And I just thought, okay, whatever, tough guy, whatever, And it wasn't until I got a real sharp pain in the right side of my face, and one of them had actually slapped the hell out of me, and I just, boom. And then I was just like, okay, this is happening. You have nobody. Nobody knows where you are. And then boom, I get slapped from the left side. And then boom from the back and boom from the front. And I kind of did like this to avoid it, because you never know who's gonna hit you or from what direction. And so basically they just slapped me really hard for 30 minutes, and they just laughed at me. Every time that they would hit me and laugh at me, it was just really, really degrading. And they would insult me. Like I said, they would insult my mother. They would call me a terrorist. And they just, that time, they roughed me up really bad. And I'm, naked, blindfold, getting hit in my face. People are kicking me. One of the officers, or whoever he was, he kept on putting his boot on my back and wiping his boots on my back. I kept on giving them the same answers, because there's no other answers. I'm really nobody. You have the wrong person. Yes, I have some problems with American policies. No, I'm not a violent person. I am ex-military. Look me up. You got the wrong person. And I don't know if I should say this, but it's almost like somebody, and you know who I'm talking about, gave them a green light to do what they did. Because they just don't do this to Americans. You never hear about it. So anyways, that was my life. I would get up in the morning. They would get me sometimes at night. They would bang on the cell doors to keep us up. It seems like every single hour they would, bang on the door and shout in, obscenities and insults to us. They made sure that none of us really got more than an hour's sleep. And I kept on getting interrogated and interrogated and interrogated and beaten every single time. And each time it just seems like it got worse. I remember one time I was made to lay down on my stomach, completely naked, and some Egyptian guard stood on the back of my knees. So I'm on my stomach, and he stood on the back of my knees, and he started jumping on the back of my knees. And as a result, it tore something in my knee. My kneecap separated slightly from, I don't know, the tendon in there somewhere, where even till today, I still can't pray with ease. When I get in jalsa, I can't pray with ease because of that. And that day was bad. It was really bad. So I can't really describe the beatings, because it was just a beating. It was, so let me just jump to like the 9th day. So I'm getting beat every single day. I'm getting interrogated every single day. I'm getting put into stress positions every single day. I'm not allowed to sleep for more than an hour. I don't know what's going on. There was a person that I always used to go to after interrogation. His name was Abu Musab. And he always used to kind of come around me and smile at me after my interrogation. And I said to him finally, I've been noticing every time that they beat the hell out of me, man, and I come back just mentally and physically and spiritually broke. You're always laughing and you're always smiling in my face. And he said to me a phrase. He said, "Brother, welcome to the school of Yusuf. Welcome to the school of Nabi Yusuf. You're in the same land as Nabi Yusuf. You're going through just a little bit of what he went through. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing you with something that you probably never experienced before. So be proud that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you this test, that is enabling you to endure these great, great tests." And he always used to say something to like calm me down. And I always used to confide in him. So I guess we'll just jump to the Eid. So it was Eid day, and everybody, all of the prisoners were allowed to, the Egyptian prisoners were allowed to see their families, and everybody was bringing in like roasted chicken and, you know, sweets and stuff like that. I had nobody. But alhamdulillah, all of the prisoners, the people that got locked up, were sharing with me. Alhamdulillah. And when everybody was eating and enjoying, I went up to the interrogation room again. And it was the worst beating that I've had in my life. The worst. I realized in that moment that nobody knew where I was. Nobody can do anything. The most beautiful lesson that I learned from this was to know what tawakkul is. People can claim to know what tawakkul is, but until you're put into positions like this, situations like this, then you learn. Nobody could help me except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody could rescue me except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody had the power to rescue me except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this particular time on Eid, they brought me up, and the first thing that they wanted to do was humiliate me. So obviously the clothes went off, blindfold is on, handcuffs behind my back. These people are cowards. And so that same guy, that Arab that spoke with an American accent, he said, Ali, it seems like you're not happy today. Why are you not happy today? Today is Eid. You're supposed to be happy. And I didn't say anything to him. He said, don't you want a Ramadan cookie? Don't you want sweets? And I said, Wallahi, I wouldn't take anything from your hand. Nothing. And I think I should explain at this point, when you're interrogated and you're put into stress positions, when you are sleep deprived, when you're beaten on a daily basis, 5, 6, 7 times a day, interrogated, tested, you go to, how can I even describe this? An animalistic type of mentality, just to cope, just to get by. What's happening to you? Because what's happening to you, this torture, is not normal for human beings. It's not normal at all. And so I told him, I don't want anything from your hands. Wallahi, I would take nothing from your hands. And so he thought it was funny to throw these cookies at my face. There was maybe 5 or 6 people in the room that I could hear laughing at me. And they would just throw cookies at me. And they would laugh. Oh, you got his forehead. Oh, you get 10 points. Try to hit him in the nose. Try to hit him in his private part. Try to hit him there. And they just laughed at me. And it seemed like that went on for an hour. And then all of them left the room except that one guy with the American accent. And he didn't say anything. He just started wailing on me everywhere, kicking me in the chest, kicking me in the stomach, kicking me in the legs, just went to town on me. And so I'm basically just getting beat up. And the pain that you go through, there's a threshold in the human body where you just can't take it anymore. I'd never been knocked out of my life. I consider myself physically an able type of guy. But I could feel myself getting knocked out. I can feel, it's like a dog getting beat over and over. There's just no stop to it. I felt like a dog. And I screamed out, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. That's the only one that I could call out to. And every time that I called out to Allah, he said, don't call out to Allah. Ya kalb, you're not a Muslim. You're not a Muslim. Don't you dare say Allah. I would recite Quran. I would call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, help me, oh Allah, help me, help me. Every time that I said that, Ya Allah, help me. I just got beat harder. So I got to the point where my mind and my body said, this is too much for you. We can't take it anymore. And so I went unconscious from the pain, from the level of pain of just constantly being beat, that sting of pain constantly. It just doesn't stop. And they have all day, they have all night. That's what they get paid to do. So I woke up in my bedroll, whatever. It's not a bed, it's just like some blankets laying on the floor. Abu Mus'ab was there. And he had some water, and he was, there was some other prisoners around me, and they knew that I had really, really got it bad that time. And so there's, sharing their roasted chicken with me and trying to cheer me up, giving me sweets and words of encouragement and, a hadith, like, and the Quran about, the trials of this life and everything. And it made me feel better. And it was Eid that day. And I remember participating in a wrestling match where 30 of us all competed. Well, most of us competed in a wrestling match. And I got second place. There was some really big guy from Iraq. He beat me. So I got second place out of 30 guys. Not bad. In my mind, I had decided, this is my life. Nobody knows I'm here. Nobody can do anything. But I tell you what, and I told Abu Mus'ab this, I said, this is between you and me. If they call my name again, which means your time is for interrogation, put your blindfold on, let's go, cuff up and let's go. I said, Abu Mus'ab, if they call me one more time, watch the door, because I'm gonna kill somebody. When they open the door, I'm gonna fight for my life, and I'm gonna take their life. That may sound strange to a lot of you that are listening to my story, but this is what torture and humiliation, mental and physical and spiritual torture does to a person who was once a person, but mentally they might not be all there anymore. So I said, watch the door and stay clear, because I'm going all out. I'm beating somebody to death. Whoever I can is coming with me. Now what happened? Maybe 3-4 hours later, I'm eating, I'm just trying to recoup from my beating, and They called my name. They called my name, just like every other time when I went to interrogation. And Abu Musab looked at me and as if to say, don't do it. And even in my mind, I didn't want to do it either, because these were supposed to be Muslims. I can hear them when they're insulting me. They're speaking Arabic. I assume that they're Muslims. So they call my name, and half of me is saying, just endure it. And the other half is saying, but don't you remember what they did to you? Don't you know that this is your life right now? Nothing's gonna change. You're gonna get beat every single day. So I went up to the door, and usually you're supposed to turn around so you don't face them. But I went straight to the door, and there was a little, like a sliding door, and they opened it. And you can see one of the guards, he went, because I was looking straight at him. I wasn't turning around anymore. I was looking straight at the door, like, what? And so the Egyptian guard, I don't know, he didn't have any pull or anything. He did like this, so I wouldn't see him. And so the colonel came. He had a couple of bars on his shoulder. And I said, come inside the cell. I said, bring as many as you want up in here. You're not gonna touch me again, ever. Whether it's you and your buddy, or whether it's the whole prison, bring everybody in here and let's go. And he looked at me and he said, Mr. Ali, don't talk like this. You know, I'm here to, to inform you that we've made a mistake. And like, I said, what? Say it again? He just, Mr. Ali, أنا آسف. نحن آسف. We're really, really sorry. There's been a mistake in identity. And I just looked at him and I said, you gotta be kidding me. You didn't think to confirm that? You had my fingerprints. You knew who I was. You had my passport. It's illegal to hold me for more than 48 hours by Geneva Conventions without informing my embassy of my imprisonment in the foreign country. And now it's a mistake of identity? He said, Ali, whatever you think, that's what it is, and we really, really apologize. But there's two people coming from the State Department, from the consul, whatever, I forget their names. And they're from your country, they're American, and they're coming to get you. We're letting you out today. Here are some new clothes. And if you could put on, if you could take a shower or, try to, look good, basically. And I said, no, I'm not putting on any of your clothes, and I'm not cleaning up. I want them to see the bruises on my body. I want them to see what you did to my legs and my knee, my whole body. Let them see. Ali, really, really sorry. Really, I don't care about your sorry. I said some things that I probably shouldn't have said, but hey, I wasn't in a healthy state of mind. I closed the door. Everybody in the prison's looking at me. Everybody in the room's looking at me like, Not more than 15 minutes later, a woman and a man came from the State Department. They called my name again, and there they were at the door. The man looked at me, the woman looked at me, and the woman was just like, and the man from the State Department, the American State Department, consul, whatever it is, embassy, he looked at the guy with the colonel or whatever, the lieutenant, and he said, "You got 5 minutes to release him. Make it happen now." "Oh, yes, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. It's really, really, really sorry, really sorry." And just like that, I was out. 10 days I had been tortured, physically, mentally, emotionally. And I was out. Nobody knew where I was. Nobody, my wife at the time didn't know. My kids didn't know. The students that I taught didn't know. Nobody knew. I disappeared. And all of a sudden, I'm in a car on my way to Al-Mugama. That's where you get your passport renewed and your visa and everything. So I'm handcuffed. I'm in clothes, my clothes that I came in with. And the guy is real stern with me. We go up to an office, and he looks at me just like, and I said, "What are you doing?" He took my passport and he went, turn the page, and I said, "What are you doing to my passport?" He's saying, "You are being deported. That's what. Never come to Egypt again. You are blacklisted. You can't come to Egypt anymore." And I'm just thinking, and I started to say something. I said, "What the?" And the guy from the State Department was like, "Ali, just let's go. Let him do or say whatever he wants. Let's go." So he stamps my passport. He deports me from Egypt. For what? I don't know. We get to the airport, Cairo International. And my last bit of humiliation was not only to be handcuffed, but the guy in the office thought, and the police officers that were with him from the Amandawla, thought it to be funny or humiliating to actually shackle my feet to my wrist and then handcuff my wrist to my waist. So basically, and did we go around? Did we go straight to the plane? No. My last bit of humiliation was being shackled, my feet shackled and my hands shackled to my waist. If in front of everybody in Cairo International, everybody, and all of my Muslim brothers from all over the world, I remember them looking at me like, what a lowlife, what a criminal. They were looking at me like that, and they had no idea what happened to me, no idea who I was and what they did to me. And that, the woman was just like, I know, let's just get on the plane. I know. So we waited on the plane. Finally, it was our time to board. And they didn't take off the shackles and the handcuffs. And I'm sitting next to people, for God's sakes. The police and their, white uniforms, black beret, and the Amandawla are all around me. And people are like, oh my God, what a criminal. And they didn't unshackle me until it was my turn to board the plane. So I got on the plane with 6 Egyptian pounds to my name. I had left about 6,000 Egyptian pounds in my apartment. Thank God they didn't find it. And they put me on a one-way ticket to New York. And I remember landing in New York and just thinking, I can't believe that. Did this really happen? How did this happen? And I'm living to tell about it. How I had so many questions about what was happening to me and what happened. I did suffer, I would say, going on 2 years at that time, back in 2005 to 2007. I did have to go through some therapy because even though it was 10 days, that was enough to push me into a mental level where I wasn't healthy for about 2 years. But alhamdulillah, my the therapist that I was seeing tried to put me on medication, and I said, no, that's not going to happen. I'm going to get through this with tawakkul, the same tawakkul that I learned inside of prison. And so the takeaway from this lesson, the takeaway from this story, people will shake their heads. Some people, when they watch this video, they'll be in tears. But I can honestly tell you from the bottom of my heart, it's one of the greatest things that ever happened to me in my life. I have never had a better Eid except in that Egyptian prison cell. Yes, it was a terrible thing. It was a terrible thing that happened to me. No, I would never want to experience that again, not even for a moment. But in the end, it taught me about tawakkul. It taught me about trusting in Allah when you have nobody. When you think that I might die. This could be my last days on earth. My kids are not even gonna know what happened to me. My wife at the time is not gonna know what happened to me. No one's going to know anything about me. And this is the way I'm going to live, or this is the way I'm going to die, or this is going to be the way I live until I die. I can't remember a time where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught me a more valuable lesson than that. And I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that happening in my life. It was a heavy price to pay, but in the end, I'm glad that I was taught that. Because trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everything. A lot of people, when they're pushed to these limits, they would say, okay, I'm done. Some people might even run away from Islam. Some people, their iman might go really, really low and they'll just fall off. But it made me stronger. It made me who I am today. And 30 years later, after converting to Islam, I can honestly say, Islam and the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best thing that happened in my life. Still, after all of that, but when you look at it from a lens of, this was your Lord teaching you something, don't you get it? See, the mu'min or the Muslim always looks for the good in bad situations. The Muslim sees bad as good. A test is good. Sometimes when you're not tested, you should worry. But I got a big test, and that was the biggest test of my life. But alhamdulillah that it happened, and alhamdulillah that I lived so I could take care and be a provider and a protector for my kids and my wife. Alhamdulillah that I lived and that I could tell my story to you, for the person who is struggling with trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the person who is getting a little bit of a test in their life and they're viewing it as something huge. But when you listen to my story, your problems seem very little. A lot of the things that we're going through these days were attacked in every single Palestine, the Uyghurs, Yemen. It's, in India, what's going on. It's terrible. It's terrible. And just like when I was tortured, you don't know when it's going to stop. But a lot of us have lost our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we look for other people to feel sorry for us. How strange that a Muslim would look for sympathy from his enemy, the one who hates him. Strange. Put all of your trust, put all of your complaints to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not the end. Your life will not carry on being this way if you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are receiving the lesson that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to give you. Allah is not punishing you for a reason. You can't look at it that way. He's trying to teach you something. And alhamdulillah, in that test, you're getting sins are flying off of you and you're getting rewarded. So it's really good, no matter which way you look at it. Put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The bad things that are happening to us in this life, it's only temporary. It's only temporary. Everything is temporary, isn't it? Your wealth is temporary. You being rich is temporary. You being poor is temporary. You being happy, you being sad. It's all temporary. We go up and down in life. But don't, brother, whoever's watching this video, brother, sister, don't lose your hope or your tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I was tortured until I cried out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I had nobody would hear me except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in doing that was my success. I learned, no, nobody can save you except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, brother. The brother in Palestine, the brothers in the Uyghur brothers. Nobody can help us except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The world doesn't see us as humans. The world doesn't see us as good people. The world doesn't see us of any value. Stop depending on people that don't see value in you. Put your complaints, put your hopes, put your aspirations, your dreams in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever is happening to you, leave it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Complain, get up in the last part of the night, put your hands up, your palms up, and beg Allah for His mercy. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Arhamni. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Arhamni. Because He's the only one that can change your condition. That's it. He's the only one. I hope this story, I know it's a long story, but I just wanted to go through it and tell you brothers and tell you sisters, we're putting our trust in the wrong places. We are being tested right now. Some of us being tested more than others. But this life is temporary. And the lessons that we learn on a daily basis should be paid attention to. Really pay attention to them. Anything that's happening bad in your life, pay attention to it. Learn from it. The ones that got this far to my video, Jazakum Allahu khairan. I appreciate the time, the concern. And as a final thing, and I mean this, I don't want to see anybody in the comments saying, oh, Ali, oh, so sorry that I'm not sorry that it happened to me, so you shouldn't be sorry that it happened to me. I didn't like it, no, but it was my test. It was my honor to go through something so great that Allah trusted me to go through. I don't want to see that in the comments. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. And the ones that understand what I'm saying, you know why. It was my lesson. It was my test. And I love it. I love it that I actually understood it. And I went forward in my life understanding that valuable, priceless bit of information. So I don't want anybody feeling sorry for me and, oh, sorry, whatever. Don't feel sorry for me. Congratulate me. Congratulate me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw me, this slave of Allah, Abdullah, fit enough to go through this trial and move on with his life, educated about the trial that he gave his slave, Ali. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.